All right, so are you ready for this?
Always. Let's dive in.
Okay, great. Today we're looking at Don't Tell My Secret,
Ah, yes.
a romance novel. But
It's a bit more than that.
it's way more than just a typical love story. It goes into love, war, betrayal, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
But I think the thing that really stuck with me was how it shows just how strong women were during that time period.
Yeah. And especially with all the hardship, right?
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
not just like a rosy picture of the past,
No, no, not at all.
showing like what they actually went through.
Right. And I
The
think,
other thing that's really interesting is that it's told from the perspective of this
yeah,
older woman, this mysterious older woman. And it's
as
like,
who gets to tell the story?
right, whose story is it and how are they telling it and
Yeah,
why are they telling it?
exactly. And what's the impact of all that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I think it makes you think about all those things. And so, speaking of impact, I think the characters in this story are so memorable. You have Lily Barrett. Her whole world changes when her husband, Jack, joins the Navy.
A classic World War II story.
Truly, yeah, it's like the classic wartime story.
But the interesting thing about Jack is how much he changes. He goes from this like excited young recruit
Yeah, yeah,
to
like ready to serve his country.
ready to go to somebody who is like broken by what he sees.
Yes,
It's like, it really makes you think about like the hidden cost of war.
yes,
It's not just on the soldiers themselves, it's on the families they leave behind.
absolutely.
And like how was PTSD viewed back then?
Right. Was it even a thing?
Yeah, like was there even a name for it?
Right.
Or were these guys just seen as weak?
Right, right, exactly. And it's not like today where we have
Resources.
resources and therapy and support groups and all that.
Right.
Back then, it was just like, get over it.
Man up.
Yeah, exactly. And speaking of tough situations, we have to talk about Mr. Carlisle,
Oh, yeah.
the factory owner where Lily works. Talk about a bad guy.
Yeah, he's like the stereotypical villain, but he represents something very real.
Yeah.
He's exploiting these women
Yes.
who are, vulnerable because their husbands and, the men in their lives are off at war.
Right, exactly. And he's got this power over them, especially over Lily's friend Susie.
Yeah.
And her story is just so sad. She ends up pregnant with Carlisle's child.
Oh, it's just heartbreaking.
And she's terrified because, I mean, what choices did women really have back then?
Right. It was a completely different
A
time.
completely different world. Socially, everything was different.
And she's trapped.
Yeah,
She has no options. It's really highlighting how the war, even though it empowered some women, it really created more problems for others.
absolutely. And then there's Mr. Smith, who, at first, you think he's just like his background character, the maintenance guy at the factory. But he ends up playing a much bigger part than you'd expect. He gets involved in this plan
Oh, yeah.
that Lily and Susie hatch to get rid of Carlisle. And that's where things get really dark.
Yeah, it takes a real turn.
Oh, yeah.
But what I find interesting about Mr. Smith is that he's not just some bad guy. He's not just going along with it because he's evil.
Yeah.
He's got this sense of justice, but he's also willing to do what needs to be done?
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder, like, what's his story?
Yeah, exactly. Like, what's his backstory?
Yeah.
What brought him to this point?
Exactly.
And then we have Eloise, the mysterious older woman who's telling her story to James Buxton, who, by the way, is a crime novelist dealing with writer's block.
Oh, yeah.
So she's like this puzzle box, slowly revealing her secrets. And you just know those secrets are going to change everything.
Absolutely. And she's the reason the story even exists, right?
Yes,
Like her secrets, the reasons for telling the story, what drives everything forward.
exactly. And it makes you question, like, everything you think you know about the characters and what they do.
Yeah, for sure.
So let's start by talking about life on the home front. With Jack off fighting, Lily's basically on her own. And remember, the government was holding back the soldiers' pay, so families like hers were really struggling to survive.
Can you imagine the stress?
Oh my gosh.
I mean, it's easy to romanticize the past, but life back then, especially for women like Lily, it was really hard.
Yeah.
They had to be tough, resourceful,
They had to figure it out.
figure it out.
Yeah, yeah,
They had no choice.
exactly. And Lily, she's the definition of resilience. She picks up extra shifts at the factory, even though it means putting up with Carlisle's gross behavior. But it gets so bad, especially after what happens with Susie. It's just like waiting to explode.
Yeah, it's like a powder kick.
Totally.
And this is where the book starts to look at the hard choices people have to make, especially during war.
Yeah.
When things are desperate, Lily and Susie, they're pushed to their absolute limit.
Right.
And they make this decision, a drastic decision, to take care of things themselves.
Yeah. And so the murder block kicks off. But instead of just talking about what happened, I want to look at why they did it. What makes someone go to that extreme? What does it say about the choices they had or didn't have back then?
I think it shows how unfair things were,
Yeah.
and that they wanted some control back.
Yeah.
They were stuck in a system that treated them like they didn't matter, used them.
Exactly.
And it shows that history isn't always pretty, right?
No, it's not.
Sometimes the things people have to do to protect themselves,
Yeah.
they're not pretty either.
No, they're not. So the plan gets going, and Mr. Smith gets dragged into it. And like we said, he's got his reasons for wanting Carlisle out of the picture. There's this understanding between all of them.
Yeah, it's like they're all hurting from the same things,
Right.
feeling cheated by the system.
Yes.
And that brings them together.
Yeah.
It makes them willing to break the rules.
Exactly. And the way it all happens, it's tense, it's risky, but they manage to pull it off. Carlisle's gone, and Lily and Susie are left to deal with what they've done. But what I find interesting is that the book doesn't try to make them look like heroes.
Right.
It doesn't shy away from the weight of their actions.
Right.
It's like they had to do it, but it's going to have consequences.
Yeah, it makes you think, what is justice? Is it
Mhm.
always about the law?
Right.
Or are there times when you got to do what you got to do?
Right. And what does that do to you?
Right, exactly.
Yeah. And it's in all this darkness that Lily's entrepreneurial spirit starts to come out. She takes those bullet-making machines from the factory
Wait, what?
and gets this amazing idea. She turns them into lolly-making machines.
That is
I
brilliant.
know. Isn't that so creative? It's like she's taking these symbols of war
Yeah.
and turning them into something sweet and happy. It's like a metaphor for her own resilience, right?
Absolutely. It's like finding hope out of the ashes.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
It's beautiful. And it's not just symbolic, it's practical, too. The war, in a weird way, created new opportunities for women. Lily probably wouldn't have been able to start her own business if things were normal.
Right, because society had different expectations back then.
Right.
The war changed all that.
Exactly. It's like the war, with all the bad things it brought, it also opened doors for women like Lily. They could do their own thing, make their own future.
Yeah, totally.
But just when things are starting to look up, Jack comes home from the war. And when he's not the same man anymore.
This is where it gets really interesting. Jack's story, it's just tragic.
Yeah.
He's fighting these demons that no one, not even Lily, understands.
Right. He's changed. And not in a good way.
Not in a good way.
He's got what we now know as PTSD. He's drinking a lot. And he starts to get abusive towards Lily.
It's devastating, especially for Lily,
Yeah.
after everything she's been through.
She was hoping for this happy reunion.
Right. To finally have him home.
Yeah, to get her life back.
And then this.
Yeah. And it shows how trauma doesn't just affect the person who went through it.
Right.
It hurts everyone around them, too.
It ripples out.
It does. And it makes you think, how do you love someone who's so broken?
Yeah.
Someone who's been changed so much by what they've experienced.
And how do you keep yourself safe at the same time?
Exactly. And that's where we're headed next, to a point where everything Lily's built starts to fall apart.
Welcome back. I bet you're wondering what happens with Jack and all his troubles.
Oh, yeah, you can totally feel the tension building. Lily's trying to make something good out of everything that's happened, but Jack's problems are like this giant roadblock she just can't get past.
And it explodes during this huge fight they have. Remember, Lily's been holding on to this secret, something really heavy tied to what happened during the war, and she just lets it all out.
It's like a dam breaking. Years of pent-up emotions, fear, guilt, it all just spills out. And Jack, he's already a mess. He can't handle it and runs out of the house straight to the pub.
Yeah, the classic escape, trying to drink away all the pain and memories. And this is when Mr. Hutchins comes into play. He's their older neighbor. And get this, a World War I vet.
This is where the story gets really interesting. Hutchins sees himself in Jack. He recognizes the signs of war trauma. The haunted look, the way he holds his drink, like it's the only thing keeping him afloat.
And he doesn't judge Jack or preach at him.
No.
He connects with him, shares his own experiences with war and the scars you can't see.
And it's such a powerful scene because it shows that the pain of war, it lasts for generations. But understanding and empathy, that's how you bridge the gap between people who've been through something so horrific.
It's like Hutchins is this wise old sage guiding Jack toward healing, offering some hope in all the darkness.
And Jack's really affected by this. It's like a light bulb goes off in his head. He finally sees how his actions have been hurting Lily, how much she's had to carry, and the strength she's shown through it all.
Yeah, it's a major turning point, but it also shows that healing takes time.
It's not a quick fix.
It's journey with bumps along the way. You'll stumble and fall. But acknowledging the wounds, both the ones you can see and the ones you can't, that's the first step.
But just when it looks like Lily and Jack might find their way back to each other, the story shifts to James Buxton, the novelist, typing up Eloise's story. And we meet Mia, another writer who's struggling with writer's block.
This is one of the things I love about this book, how it plays with different points of view.
Yeah.
Weaving these threads together, it makes you wonder what storytelling really is.
Exactly. We were so focused on Lily's life, and now we're in James and Mia's world. Their creative struggles, their growing connection, and always there's an Eloise in the background with her secrets just waiting to come out.
Like a magnet pulling James and Mia closer, not just to each other, but closer to understanding themselves and the world around them.
Their relationship is this crazy mix of attraction, shared ambition, and mystery, all because of Eloise's increasingly strange story. Remember, James writes crime novels, so he's constantly looking for clues and trying to solve the puzzle.
And Eloise, in her own way, starts dropping hints, hosting names,
Yeah.
pushing him to see beyond just the words she's saying to find the deeper meaning.
It starts with this seemingly innocent comment from Eloise about knowing that James is falling for Mia. James freaks out because he's never mentioned Mia to her. So how could she possibly know?
Like just reading his mind.
Right, right. And then things get even weirder when Eloise is tired from dictating her story and asks James to open the door so she can leave. But as James watches her go, he notices something off about how she looks.
Younger somehow.
Yes, more lively, like she's shedding years of age and fatigue. It's subtle, but enough to make James wonder what's really going on.
Spooky.
Yeah. He even asks Eloise about it, and she brushes it off, but there's this look in her eyes like she's hiding something. Later, when James is with Mia, he tells her about the weird encounter. And it turns out Eloise knew about Mia's writer's block, too, without ever being told.
Like puzzle pieces clicking into place.
Exactly. But the picture they're forming is disturbing, mysterious, and a little bit creepy. Mia even jokes that maybe James is the one falling for Eloise, which, of course, he denies.
But there's definitely something there, right?
Yes, this pull toward her, a connection that goes beyond a writer and the person they're writing about.
More than just an interview.
Right. And just as James and Mia are trying to make sense of all this, Eloise drops the bomb. She tells them he is Lily Barrett, the woman whose life she's been dictating. Only Lily's dead and existing in some kind of spirit form.
Mind blown. This is where the book goes from a captivating story about love and war into something truly extraordinary. It blends everyday life with the supernatural, makes you question what you believe and all the mysteries we don't understand.
It changes everything. The story we thought we knew takes on a whole new meaning. It's not just about Lily's life anymore. It's about her spirit living on, reaching out from beyond the grave to touch people's lives.
And the way she reveals her identity is so well done. It's gradual, this slow burn that keeps you guessing and then blows your mind.
Totally. James doesn't believe it at first. He's struggling to wrap his head around it. Mia's skeptical too, but she can't deny what's been happening. All those strange events that seemed random, but now point to Eloise pulling strings behind the scenes.
It makes you question everything you thought you knew about life and death, Are there forces we just don't understand? Can our loved ones really connect with us after they're gone?
Right, and Eloise, now that it's revealed she's Lily, she explains that she's drawn to James because she sees a kindred spirit, someone who gets the power of stories and why it's important to share them with the world.
But she's not just there for James.
Right.
He's reaching out to Mia too, trying to help her granddaughter heal and find herself.
And what's incredible is that Eloise, as Lily, can actually affect things in the physical world, but in subtle ways. Remember all those weird coincidences? It turns out they weren't coincidences at all. It was Eloise making things happen, making sure James and Mia met, protecting Mia from her ex-boyfriend, even keeping the music playing at the Ritz when the jukebox broke.
Like a guardian angel, watching over them, guiding them, nudging them in the right direction without them even knowing. It's heartwarming and kind of creepy at the same time.
Oh, totally. She's a ghost with a mission. She wants to make things right, tie up loose ends, and make sure her story, her legacy, lives on.
And she has a huge impact on both James and Mia James. Inspired by Eloise's story and his connection with Mia, he finally gets over his writer's block and finishes the novel, Don't Tell My Secret.
which becomes a huge hit.
Instant success.
People love the story, the romance, the mystery, the supernatural elements. It just proves how powerful stories can be. They can transport us, make us believe in anything, and make us question what's possible.
But the success is bittersweet because as soon as the book is finished, Eloise as Lily disappears. Her mission is done, her story's out in the world, and she can finally rest.
It's sad, though, isn't it? Eloise is gone.
Yeah, it is. But her story's out there. It's like she's living on through it.
Right. It makes you think about the people we've lost and the stories they leave behind.
Definitely. And it shows how powerful stories can be, how they can connect us, inspire us, even help us heal. I mean, look at Jane's and Mia.
Yeah, they're totally in love.
And they're sharing Lily's story with everyone.
It's like keeping her memory alive.
Exactly. And I love that they're using this platform to talk about veterans and their families.
Me too. Lily's story shows how war affects people long after it's over.
Absolutely. The trauma doesn't just go away.
Right. And we need to keep talking about that, even today.
Totally. War isn't just about physical wounds. It leaves scars on everyone.
Yeah. But even though Eloise is gone, there's still this one mystery. A clue about something Lily never told James.
Oh, yeah. Like a secret within a secret.
Totally. What was this hidden part of her life? The author leaves us hanging, which I think makes the story even better.
It keeps you thinking. I keep going back to what Eloise said about having to make this really hard choice. Something about someone powerful.
Right? And how that choice messed with her, changed her decisions. Makes you wonder what it was. Maybe something to do with Carlisle's murder or something that happened during the war.
Who knows?
It makes you think about our own secrets, right? The choices we make that change our lives. And how those choices affect other people, too.
Exactly. It's like everyone has a story, and sometimes the most interesting ones are the ones that never get told.
So if you're looking for a story that'll stay with you, a story about love, mystery, and the supernatural that makes you question everything, you have to read Don't Tell My Secret.
It'll make you realize that even ordinary lives can be extraordinary, and sometimes the most important stories come from beyond the grave, urging us to listen, to learn, and to never stop searching for the truth.
Well said. Maybe there's an Eloise out there for all of us, waiting to tell us a story. Until next time, keep diving deep.